He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
Our big news day here on the Marlow Show. Can't wait to get into it. Tons of stuff. We got Trump dunking on the South African leader in the Oval Office. We've got big, beautiful bill updates for you. I've got Biden cancer updates for you. And then on the back half, Congressman James Comer, who is absolutely rip-roaring over the Biden, not cover-up, it's gaslighting. We all know it. And I'll get into all that momentarily. So big show, but a lot of news in the meantime. I'll give you a quick Biden cancer update. A lot of you emailing me Biden cancer questions, and thank you for that, because I want to make sure you're getting the cutting edge stuff and you're not just getting all your news from your favorite influencers on X, the Everything app. I can do better for you. So a lot of the questions have been, is it true that he really was not screened for cancer for 10 years? And this is an interesting one because it's possible. It's possible. But I have a theory on why he might not get some of these basic tests, because once you kind of cross the 7-year-old threshold, as I've noted on the show a couple times this week, the cancers in the prostate tend to move very slowly and tend to not have a huge impact on your life. And so it's one of these things where if he got bad news on one of these screenings that it was potentially cancerous, then it would have probably caused a lot of alarm. It might have caused him to lose a primary, for example. It might have caused him to lose an election, for example, if it was effectively weaponized against him, not just by Republicans, but Democrats. So maybe it might have been one of those things where he just didn't want to know what was going on. And the Bidens are that tricky. Recall, if any of you have read Breaking Biden, you'll learn this in the first couple of pages, that Joe Biden has wanted to be president since he was an elementary school student, which I think was in the 19th century. Misty, you got to double check my math on that, but I think that's when Biden was in elementary school. It was like around Civil War era, maybe the antebellum era, like maybe that's when it was. So so he's been wanting to be president for that long. He was not going to ruin it for himself. And so I think it's highly possible he just didn't take some basic tests, because it is, even if he's had the cancer for a long time, it clearly hasn't had much of an effect on his life to this point, which is the nature of most, not all, most prostate cancers that present later in life. So earlier in life, in your 60s, for example, like our friend Scott Adams has, totally different story. So good questions, and I'll keep you posted on that. But of course, there's a possibility we're getting lied to because it's the Bidens. I'm trying to do two things at once here when I bring you the information on the show. I'm trying to bring you the most cutting edge analysis from the people in my life who do this stuff day in and day out when it comes to cancer. But I'm also trying to read between the lines that these are the Bidens. They are liars. They do lie about everything. And there's no reason not to believe you're not being lied to here. But so I will analyze what's being put out, and I will always add the caveat, we really don't know. But I think it's really noteworthy that I think I've got a good theory here that perhaps he didn't want some of this basic information because he didn't want to alarm people, which could have potentially cost him the presidency if they thought he was a cancer patient, because most people don't know the difference. It is, for most of American life, cancer was seen as just death. It's just synonymous with death. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take you to die from the cancer. That's not really the case now anymore. It is, I'll tell you, I don't know if Mrs. Dr. Marlow would go to work at the cancer ward every day if she thought every single one of her patients was going to drop dead. That's tough on the human spirit. If she's mostly giving out decent news. She's giving out a lot of bad news every day, a lot of bad news. But for the most part, their treatments are so good. The screening's so good. Surgery's so good. I mean, there's so many ways that we can treat it these days. But my last take is Biden on the ivermectin? Is he taking the Meckies? We know it's a dewormer, but it's a dewormer with amazing cancer-fighting ingredients. We learned this from Mel Gibson. All of his friends are on it, and all of them got cured. So is Biden on the Meckies? That's what I want to know. That's what someone's got to ask him, some dogged reporter. Let's get Jake Tapper on it. He's a great reporter. All right. More Tapper news. It's starting to get glorious here on the Jake Tapper front. His book's out, which I think I'll read it. I've just been busy this week, so I can't drop everything. Maybe I'll read this afternoon. I don't want to make any promises to you guys. Of course, I like to read these things so that because you all don't have time to read a Jake Tapper book filled with a bunch of baloney about the Bidens. But that's sort of what you trust me to do, right? So I'm going to try to do it. But his book's out, and finally, the narrative has changed. You heard it here first. No one was on this faster than I was. It was not a cover-up. It was not a cover-up. It was not. Everyone knew, especially Jake Tapper, that Joe Biden was in mental decline. So he started yesterday's show with, he had aneurysms that were removed from his brain in the 1980s, and he was never the same since. He wasn't that sharp before then, by the way. He was a plagiarist. He had that stutter that everyone talks about. So it wasn't like he had a perfectly crisp mind and body at the time. But after that, of course, he was on a decline, saying crazy stuff and losing track of basics, looking totally lost. Everyone knew this. It's completely well known. And Jake Tapper was one of the foremost people trying to cover it up, scolding his audience, scolding guests, most famously Laura Trump, for suggesting that Biden is not of sound mind and body. And now he's cashing in bigly. He's going to make probably $1 million on this book, I'm guessing, like a ton of money. He doesn't need it. I'm sure he's making way more than that at CNN, but he's going to make a ton of money on this book, selling this book, peddling this total fabrication that there was a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline. There was no cover-up. And finally, it feels like the media's understanding that this is a media scandal. This is not a Biden scandal as much as it's a media scandal. Sure, maybe a few people who were professionally in the Biden business did their best to protect Joe Biden, but that is the rule. That is not the exception. That is the rule in political life. That is the nature of politics, is that if you've got a horse, you ride that horse. If you go to bring a girl to dance, you dance with her at that dance. That is a lot of these people, the Ron Klains of the world who've been with Joe Biden since before I was alive. I mean, of course those guys are going to defend Joe Biden to the very end. It is the suggestion that's just as small. It's just Jill Biden. His wife, you're criticizing his wife for standing by him. I'm no Jill Biden fan, even though she should have been the Surgeon General, and maybe she should be the one who treats Joe Biden for Joe Biden's cancer. Maybe it's it. Maybe the problem is he didn't get enough good treatment from Surgeon General Dr. Jill Biden. Maybe that was really the issue. But we criticize her, fine. Let's haul her in. Let's investigate her, whatever, bring her in for questioning. That's all fine. But this is a media scandal because the media knew and they all went along with it because they thought he was still the best chance to beat Trump. So, and that's very noteworthy. And then now we're getting little details from the book that are coming out, like key Biden staffers, key Biden campaign aides were getting paid exorbitant fees to join the Kamala Harris campaign, which suggests it was a broader negotiation. And that's why I fully anticipate if Joe Biden is on this earth in a few months, he's going to announce an 8-figure book deal, maybe a double 8-figure book deal for him and Jill. The money will never be recuperated. It'll all be a kickback that was negotiated before he dropped out of the race. So all those details are still coming. This is an ongoing cycle. Remember, guys, and I bring this up in the Comer interview, the standard that was set by Joe Biden is that you are free to investigate your predecessors. You are free to pursue using the full force of the law the president that preceded you. That's what Biden did to Donald Trump, and that's what Donald Trump should do to Joe Biden. But don't forget, the main scandal here is not with Biden, it's with the media, it's with the Jake Tappers of the world. He is the problem. And him trying to put one over on America, that when he was part of the cover-up and then writing a book about a cover-up, it is one of the most egregious, outlandish, almost absurd things I've ever seen in media. And he can never live it down, but the whole media that's gone along with it should never live it down as well. All right, let's play some Tapper. I asked Misty to pull some Tapper hypocrisy clips. Let's see, she got one for me. Let's see what we got.
Biden White House did not like me. Okay, this was I'm not 100% sure if that gets the full context of the Megyn Kelly interview, but Megyn Kelly had Tapper on. I don't know why he did this. And Megyn, of course, looks like a genius. I know she works very hard. She's a hard worker, but it is really interesting how she, just by virtue of Tapper sitting down, you just have to ask him better basic questions. And you look at a total genius. But Megyn did very well in the interview, asked him tough questions, asked him about his hypocrisy of attacking Laura Trump on his CNN show for suggesting Biden was in mental decline, suggesting that Biden has a stutter, and that's it. Look, all this was old news. I wrote about all of it in Breaking Biden, which is, I'm not frustrated by it because it's fun to talk about it. And I do feel a little like I called this one right, that I spent so much time investigating Joe Biden. I just found him to be a much more nefarious figure than the media has given him credit for. I just find him to be a lot of people act like he's just a puppet, that he's an empty suit. A lot of what he did was just so unprecedented. His level of corruption, we've never seen it in American politics. The way his family was roped in on it, the way Hunter Biden was coordinating so much of it, the way other family members who had no skills were grifting off of him and our country.
And the media just was cool with it. They were completely cool with it, especially Jake Tapper. Not just Jake, Jake Tapper being included. Jake Tapper was amongst the worst offenders. All right. Good stuff there. So happy to dunk on Tapper, and I hope this news cycle goes on forever. I don't care how many books he sells. I hope, because it is, people are finally getting it, and I like that. All right. Other things in the news. Big, beautiful bill. The media is broken. For decades, big cable and legacy media have filtered information to hide the truth. But thanks to podcasts and new media like this show, the truth can break through, providing voices and views the legacy outlets block from the air. But big cable still has one major way to control information, and that's access. They do this by limiting access to something called spectrum, the invisible airwaves that power affordable wireless internet, and by forcing you into their bundles, keeping independent media out of reach. Trump and Republicans in Congress have a chance to do something big here by making more spectrum available and breaking big cable's stranglehold on information. So there's a couple things you could do to find out more. You can go to endthecableopoly.org. That's endthecableopoly.org for more information about how to make more spectrum available. And if you're convinced, you should call your senators and your members of Congress and say, hey, why don't you work with President Trump and try to make more spectrum available? So endthecableopoly.org to find more. BBB, formerly known as Build Back Better. I'll give you some updates on this, and we'll have some more from Congressman Comer and others throughout the week. I'm talking to Republicans all week on the Marlow Show about this stuff. Rules Committee was meeting at 1 a.m. last night, and it was going on all night, and I think it might still be going on as we're recording this. But the White House are pushing for a vote today. I don't even think we have a bill, so I don't know how we're going to vote on no bill, but I guess maybe to advance it some way. But this is all, White House just wants to get this through. And they are taking big swings at anyone who's standing in the way at just getting this thing passed. SALT deduction cap increase is now up to $40,000 per person or $80,000 for a couple. Carney on yesterday's show, I think, gave a pretty convincing explanation that the SALT cap deduction is just a handout to blue states and disincentivizes blue states voters to vote Republican because they don't feel the full effect of Democrats' big wasteful government policies if they get this big deduction in their state. I think Carney's very persuasive on that. They're also talking about trying to find new ways to cut, because this is one of the big questions here, is that the bill, according to these Penn Wharton budget model, CBO score, is going to add trillions of dollars to the deficit. Conservatives are trying to figure out ways to pay for this. Again, we can't trust these scores. If you want more evidence of this, then listen to my interview with John Carney yesterday on the show. We go into this in a lot of detail, but you can't trust these scores. They're wrong all the time. They're wrong by trillions quite often on this stuff. But overall, we don't want too much of a bloated government and bloated budget if we can avoid it. And a lot of the cuts don't kick in until 2029. Things like the Medicaid work requirement, which seems like a no-brainer, feels like something to be pretty universally agreed upon. So we want to get those cuts in right away. But as Carney noted yesterday, again, very persuasive, that sometimes the tax bill and the cuts bill are not the same. And we can't say we can't cut taxes until we do the spending cuts. Well, maybe we can look at them as a separate thing. We would like to do them both at once, but we're going to get new revenue from tariffs, and we've got to get those taxes cut because that is going to help the economy grow. And the best way to solve the debt deficit issues is going to be to grow the economy. That's the bottom line. And so that's what we want to do. But that said, I do like cuts, and I want to see them kick in way before 2029. And that's going to be that is a topic of debate right now. A lot of the more hawkish official conservatives trying to get those cuts in earlier on, and I think that's a good move. A couple other things, don't go far enough. I want to mark a couple of things down for you. The Medicaid work requirement not kicking in early enough. I would love to see that earlier when we get the bill, hopefully. Social Security taxes. There's a bigger Social Security tax deduction, but there is not but we're still taxing Social Security. This is a double or a triple tax on the American people. I don't get it. It should stop. We should stop taxing Social Security benefits. It does not make any sense to me. I don't care what it does to debt or the deficit. It's just illogical, and we need to have the best policies. The remittances tax. I was trying to get an explanation for why it's only 5%. And here is what was offered to me by people in the know, that first of all, that if it gets much higher than a 5% tax, then people will just cheat. So it will effectually be a moot point. And I don't buy into that. I don't go along with it. I think it should be higher because I don't think that we should be allowing for any of the remittances. I think that is a terrible principle. But apparently, a lot of countries are so dependent on remittances from immigrants, both legal and illegal, living and working in the United States, sending it back to their home country. They're so dependent on those remittances that it would actually cripple their economies if we raise the tax 50, 75%, which is effectively banning remittances. And if we did that it could actually be too severe towards those other economies and could create other problems for us down the road. Sort of not my problem from my vantage point here as editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and an America First guy, but just note that is literally what's being discussed in Washington. And when you're seeing people say that we can't tax remittances more than 5%, they might be thinking stuff like that, and just not good enough for me. Those taxes should go up right away. And I'm pro after the bill gets passed. Remember, Congress doesn't retire after the bill. So once this gets passed, then we should get some of these things like the Social Security tax, no tax on Social Security, the raising tax remittances. Let's come up with individual bills on this stuff and let's get people on the record. I think the Social Security issue, I think 100% Democrats are not going to vote for taxing Social Security benefits. So I think that's going to pass. So we can do that. The remittances, I want to see people on the record who thinks the remittance tax should only be 5%. I just don't buy it's really that many people. All right. Other stuff that's going on. There's a war drums beating apparently between Israel and Iran, but am I buying it? And I do not know. So Israel's preparing a strike on Iran, according to a report that I saw in CNN today. I'm just not sure on this, and I'll tell you why I'm not sure on it. First of all, the reporters on the story are Jim Sciutto and Natasha Bertrand, two of the biggest liars in all of media. This feels like something that was fed by the deep state or even the White House. I'll tell you what's going on here is that no one in the White House that I know of wants Israel to bomb Iran. I'm sure there's someone who doesn't talk to me who's there, so I'm not. But every single person I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people in the White House, no one actually wants Israel to bomb Iran. No one wants America in a war with Iran. We don't want Iran to have nuclear facilities. We don't want them to continue nuclear enrichment. And we want them to be deeply scared of us. And we want them to think that we've got Israel's back. All that's true, but they don't really want Israel to go in and bomb it. So it feels like this leak is they're concerned and they're trying to get Israel to back off a little bit, or there's some deeper 3D chess that's going on with regards to Iran that I don't totally have worked out in my head. But I do not believe it. Look, hand up, it could be wrong, but I do not believe Israel's about to bomb Iran and start some sort of World War III right now. So I don't think that's happening. But that said, we got to pay close attention because it will be an interesting conundrum for Trump if it happens, because Trump clearly not thrilled with Israel these days, though generally a pro-Israel guy. I don't think anyone in that White House really wants war with Iran. So interesting, and we'll keep you posted on that at Breitbart News throughout the day. And on the Marlow Show, of course. All right. Other things, I've got two clips I wanted to share. One of them was Trump. I'll do today first, and then we'll go backwards. But Trump from today was meeting with the leader of South Africa, and this was pretty interesting stuff. That the South African president was there. Ramaphosa, I think is how you pronounce it. He had to sit through a video of Kill the Farmer, trying to point out that he needs to be arresting more of the racists who are cracking down on the white farmers, the Afrikaners. So good stuff from Trump, and I got some audio of it because when Trump throws down on a global bad guy in the Oval Office, it is as good as TV as you can get. So here it is.
So you denounced that type of language in the video that you saw?
Oh, yes. We've always done so. As government, as my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia, they're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation.
Sometimes Trump plays 3D chess and 4D chess, and I like to highlight to you when he's doing that and when I think it's working. But sometimes he just plays checkers, and that's all you need to play. First of all, you call up world leader and say, come by the Oval Office and hang out. They're all going to say yes. And then when they're there, you can just tell them, just be strong and do the right thing. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated. You don't have to make it some sort of multi-partite negotiation here. Can you just stop the racist attacks on the white farmers, and then we won't have a problem here? Like that seems like something you should do, right? And that's it. It's that simple. There's nothing more to it. He was prepared with props. I love when Trump brings out a nice prop. Check this out.
Turn the lights down. Turn the lights down, and just put this on. It's right behind you.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. South Africa, occupy land. That's who we are. Can we drop my membership from this useless parliament? Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Come on, sir.
So what's happening, for those of you who can't see, that Trump is showing a video. He's got teed up a video that he's putting this right in the face of the South African president. And it's a video of radical leaders, a guy, Julius Malema, and other black political figures in the country who are chanting slogans like kill the farmer and shoot to kill, and basically commanding people to seize white-owned farms when we're seeing what's essentially a genocide take place in the country. And Trump is just putting it right in this guy's face. So let's see where it goes. Any of you are psychologists in the audience or have a background in this stuff? Like, why do you dance when you say kill the white farmer? Like, what is that about? It's so unbelievably horrifying. It's the banality of evil as it is. They just make it just like they're just dancing while they're talking about genociding people. Wild. This is a massive rally for those of you who can't see it. I mean, this is a very popular position in South Africa, and that is doesn't reflect very well.
The man of DJ is PE is a white man. So these people really want to hit them out.
This is a long clip, so I'm going to try to find where this goes on for a while. All right, so we've got up to the minute coverage for you guys. Hold on, let me do this again. All right, so we got up to the minute cover for you guys at Breitbart, but it's good stuff from Trump putting in people's face, and he's going to get a lot of results. But just remember, he's the humanitarian. His border policies are more humanitarian. Him bringing world peace is more humanitarian. Economic prosperity of the Middle East is humanitarian. Him trying to bring a lot of these countries that are just third world hellholes back into the global economic scheme, that's humanitarian. And him trying to demand that they don't have genocides in apartheid-riddled countries, that's humanitarian as well. He is the peacemaker of our time. And just note that the peace through strength approach is just undefeated, completely undefeated. It is the best approach, period.
All right, one more from yesterday, but I can't resist it because it's too fun. Rubio was kicking Chris Van Hollen's butt, and it's just important to just keep bigging up Rubio, who was a whipping boy for us at Breitbart News for many, many years, and now seems like, other than Donald Trump, the most competent politician in the country, it seems like right now. So let's just see how this went. This went about how you would expect, which was awesome. But let me play you some footage here.
I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
So first of all, that's Van Hollen saying, remember, Rubio got 100% of the vote for Secretary of State. You get the confirmation because, of course, if he did not get the confirmation, the Democrats weren't going to get anyone they like better from Trump. So I think that's a good point to make. But also, Rubio's always been good to work with for Democrats. He's worked across the aisle a lot of times. I think they like him. He's very well liked. So it just reminds you of, if Rubio is on the ticket in 2028, particularly the top of the ticket, he's going to win a lot of states, and he's going to contest in states that Republicans probably haven't contested in a long time because of that. And I think that's really interesting to note. Especially people who want to have some sort of a coronation and not really have a primary. I don't know if that's going to happen for that reason, because Rubio is very well liked by moderates and Democrats because of his long history of working with them. And it's really only in recent years when his MAGA bona fides have really he's coming to his own in that way. All right, let's play.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job. Based on what I know.
Well, that's just a flippant statement, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't ask.
Senator, please let the Secretary.
I'd be happy to, but then I can respond to his.
Your time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add. Your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr.
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation. I don't regret psychosocial support services.
I raised Sudan, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond?
Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes.
I chose to use my time that way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to
use
my time
that way. Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear in the days to come. You're going to see who you went to defend.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor.
Secretary Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court of the United States because he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay?
Nolte told me when he was watching this, he said he was having a gay panic over Rubio. I spoke to a family member last night who said that she was really jealous of Rubio's wife. I mean, this is just this is the type of stuff that it makes you very excited to be a conservative, to watch a dunkathon like this. He was just completely prepared, and I like how he's not smiling. He's throwing down. It's almost like a comedy routine, but he's doing it completely deadpan with all these USAID absurdities that he's got at his fingertips. And he's completely right about Abrego Garcia, who was a gangbanger and was a human trafficker. It's like why Chris Van Hollen wanted to die on this hill. He should never live it down, and his constituents should know about it. We got some more. Let's do it.
There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I have under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them we've had communications with the president of El Salvador, I am under no obligation under our division of powers in this country and to share with the judicial branch how I conducted diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, my conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again, and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order.
It's fun now because we get to be the adults in the room and they get to be the ones who are just the hysterics. And that must be very frustrating for them. Must feel like it's more difficult to conduct serious negotiations and to balance people's various interests and to compromise. But it is ultimately meaningful work. And it's not as meaningful to just sit around screaming at people, scolding people, and acting like just because the Trump administration did it, it's wrong. So good stuff. It goes on from there. The full clip's at Breitbart News, a couple more minutes. But I want to switch gears and talk to Congressman Comer. But before we do, Trump sent out this meme that I feel like I would be a mistake if I didn't pull this. Those of you who are not watching on the streams, you're missing out. But here we go. Trump hits a golf ball and they cut it so it looks like the golf ball hits Bruce Springsteen in the back of the head and Bruce Springsteen falls down on stage. There's a viral clip of Springsteen falling down on stage and he does not look like a spring chicken and his shirt's too tight and he's got a little bit of gut fat going on, which is, look, a lot of men do, but I mean, he doesn't have to wear a shirt that tight if he's got it going. And he just looks very pathetic, rolled on the floor. And he does not like this country that gave him so much. So good for Trump. And I like how Trump uses mockery and ridicule, not just anger, not just righteous indignation. You also have to use jocularity. We learned that from the main man, Andrew Breitbart, who has inspired us so often. All right, let's get into it with Congressman Comer. Thank you to producer Misty for putting all this together. And all of you in the audience, remember, aloha@alexmarlow.com if you've got any thoughts. Here we go. All right, let's talk about gold for a second. You guys have seen what's happening this year. It's up over 25%. It broke past 3,300. It's at 3,250 right now. And I think it's going to go up from here. You guys are seeing the stock market so chaotic, losing trillions, bouncing around wildly. The one thing that's been so dependent each and every day has been gold. New tariffs are going to continue to shake up trade. Inflation's running hot. Our national debt now over $36 trillion. And the big, beautiful bill, I got to say, it's probably going to add to it, unfortunately. I hope not, but Goldman says that gold could hit 3,700 before the year's out. Central banks are buying gold at record levels, and my friends at Priority Gold have a free gold guide for all of you. They'll help you purchase gold yourself. You'll learn a lot about it. They will teach you all about the industry. I think it's really cool to learn about it, to fill yourself in on what your options are. You can move into a gold or precious metals IRA or 401k, tax and penalty free. It's just terrific, and I think that it was the biggest no-brainer. If you'd bought gold when I started recommending it, you'd have made a ton of money by now. Here's what you do. Text SNC, as in Salem News Channel. Text SNC to 24999. That's the whole number. You don't need 10 digits. 24999. Text SNC. Get your 2025 gold guide right now, or you can go to prioritygold.com/freedom. It's another option for you. These are great people with a great product or several great products. Check it out. SNC to 24999, prioritygold.com/freedom. All right, very pleased to have Congressman James Comer on the Alex Marlow Show. Congressman, great to have you. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. We did a great hour on the Breitbart Fight Club that was an absolute blast about your book, All the President's Money, which I read and I enjoyed very much, investigating the secret foreign schemes that made the Biden family rich, which makes you the perfect person to talk to this week. But before we get into the Bidens, I want to get an update for you on the big, beautiful bill, which I think we're all rooting for it, but we're also rooting for the best version of the bill. And luckily, it feels like we're debating amongst ourselves, Republicans and conservatives, on this one. It doesn't look like the Democrats are going to be happy with it, which is a good thing. I think a lot of it's some of the immigration measures. But break down for us, I want to get, I'm curious about two things. First of all, highlights and lowlights for you from your vantage point in the bill so far. And also, I want to talk about the nature of the negotiation, making sure this thing does get across the finish line. But let's just take those in order. What's your favorite parts of the bill so far and least favorite parts?
Well, my favorite part is we're saving money. That's something that's unheard of in this town. You know, you got some of my colleagues, and I agree with them. I would love to save even more money. But, you know, at the end of the day, you have to pass what you could get 218 votes in the House and 51 votes in the Senate. And I think if you can save $1.5 trillion, that's a win, because all we've ever seen in government is each year spends more than the previous year. Each year spends more than the previous year. My favorite part is there are cost savings. We don't cut Medicaid, but we tighten the eligibility requirements of Medicaid, because we believe there are people here illegally who are receiving Medicaid, that is free health care. We know there are able-bodied people in states like Kentucky that expanded Medicaid that are on Medicaid. And again, that is free health care. Those people aren't supposed to be on Medicaid. So that's where the savings in Medicaid is, eliminating the waste, fraud, abuse, and then obviously the tax cuts. Every hardworking, taxpaying American wants to pay less to the federal government, and that's what this big, beautiful bill does. So hopefully we'll be able to pass it out this week.
So a couple of the points where it feels like there's some level of disagreement. The Medicaid front, it seems like there's some debate going on. President Trump does not want Medicaid to be messed with a lot other than cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. That makes sense. I like the idea of adding some of the work requirements. That makes sense. But is there a debate amongst your colleagues, and what are the points that are holding up the Medicaid issue?
It's the same members that always, it comes down to the wire, on any type of legislation. You've got members that think it should cut more, and you've got members that don't want to cut anything. And what do you do in a situation like that? In Congress, you compromise and you cut the waste, fraud, and abuse out. And that's not been done. Medicaid has just grown and grown and grown. It's out of control. It's unsustainable. We want a Medicaid program for poor children, for pregnant women, low-income pregnant women, for the elderly who are poor, for the truly disabled. But what's happened is Medicaid has become an entitlement. And there are people that are healthier than you and me that are receiving Medicaid. And again, that's free health care. So this program does what Trump wants. It doesn't harm the program. It protects and preserves the program for the future to ensure that people who are truly eligible for Medicaid receive Medicaid. So, again, we've got guys that want to cut Medicaid and reduce the number of people on Medicaid altogether, regardless of whether they're eligible or not. We've got people that don't want to touch it, that just, think that it's okay that illegals are on Medicaid because that's what the big hospitals and some of the big pharmaceutical companies want. And at the end of the day, this is a compromise. It's in the best interest of the American people. It's in the best interest of the taxpayers. And it's in the best interest of the people who truly deserve Medicaid, who are receiving Medicaid benefits. So I hope that we don't argue over minor details that aren't achievable. It's not, like that. If it's Chip Roy or Ralph Norman, who I have the utmost respect for, they say we should cut Medicaid more. The president doesn't want to do that. The votes aren't there to do that. This is better than if we don't pass this bill, then nothing's going to happen, and the program's going to continue to spiral out of control.
Okay, so there's a lot of discussion about whether or not this actually is going to cut spending overall. In Breitbart, Leanne John Carney, who's our resident economic and finance editor, he's very optimistic that the various scoring models, the Penn-Wharton budget model, all that stuff, is way off base, and we've got to do the principled thing first and let some of the size and scope of government stuff sort itself out. But it is something that a lot of people in my audience, I'll tell you, Congressman, are concerned that there aren't enough cuts commensurate with the amount of tax cuts that are going to take place, and we would love to see tax cuts and government cuts. Are you satisfied with the way things are looking right now?
Well, you could cut more, and I'll tell you where you could cut is the reimbursements for a lot of providers. Those reimbursements were increased during COVID, and initially what we talked about doing was taking the reimbursement rate back to what it was pre-COVID. And of course, the media was talking about cutting, and people were going to be kicked out off Medicaid, and the hospitals were going to shut down, which was never true. So you could cut there. But again, the president said that he didn't want that. I don't know if he's basing that on the fact that the bill wouldn't pass if you did that. But that's the area where you could cut more. And that was debated. That was talked about. At the end of the day, both President Trump and Speaker Johnson determined that the votes weren't there to do that. But that would have been the area that would have saved, a significant amount of more money. But again, the votes weren't there.
Right. Okay. So one other area that's been a topic of conversation is is the SALT deduction, the state and local tax deduction. I know it feels like it's probably going up, and this is one of these things that is perceived largely as sort of a handout to blue states and blue areas. It would help me out a lot, but I'll tell you, Congressman, personally where I am, and I'm in California and I'm in a swing district, so it actually would be kind of smart politically, but it also, I think, is unsettling for a lot of people. It's at 10 grand now. Where is the negotiation now? What are the various sides? Because this seems like a tricky one.
Well, you've got about 5 New Yorkers and maybe 1 or 2 from New Jersey and some other states that are in on this SALT caucus, and they're trying to get as big a deduction as they can. And I understand that they're representing their district, but I don't like giving you're rewarding states that have ridiculously high property taxes. That's what you're doing. You're punishing states like Kentucky that have lower tax rates. Because there's less overall tax revenue because you're allowed to deduct more from your property taxes in states like California and New York. So, I don't like that part, but I understand, at the end of the day, you're going to have to probably give those New England Republicans something. You're going to have to increase it a little bit. But hopefully they'll go along with the Medicaid changes that they don't like. And hopefully the guys that don't want to give any increased deduction for SALT will go along with a slight increase in SALT to protect the reforms to Medicaid. It's like making sausage. It's the way the system was set up by our founding fathers. I think we could go further in the bill, and I would certainly vote for it. There's not much I wouldn't vote for in the cutting category. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we have to get the bill through, and this is what President Trump's decided on. We talked about it for 4 or 5 months, and delaying it further is just going to lead to failure.
One other thing to put in your brain in case this thing does get passed back and forth is I was very excited to see that there were taxes on remittances. I think that's a great element of border security. It really disincentivizes people from coming here illegally. But then I saw it's only something like 5%, which doesn't make any sense to me. Shouldn't it be like 50, 75%? Wouldn't that really cut off the illegal immigration even more so than we've already seen?
Yeah, I think it would. But at the end of the day, we've got members that feel like we're being too hard on the people that are here legally or people that have been here illegally for 2 decades that have, paid taxes and worked hard and all that. So, it's a touchy issue. In every instance of this bill, you could go further. And I'm sure people that are watching this show would love to go further. But at the end of the day, you've got to get to 218. And remember, there's not a Democrat on the planet that's going to vote for this. Thomas Bassett said he's not going to vote for it. So that, they throw him in with the unfortunately with the Democrat category. And it's just like, it's very difficult to get to 218. President Trump's been very active in this. And, at the end of the day, this is the plan that he endorses.
So the last one on this one, just procedurally, where are we at? What can we look forward to in terms of the trajectory for this thing to actually get through?
Well, I'm testifying at 1 o'clock in the morning in front of the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee is going to meet all night, all the way to 7 a.m. in the morning. So I'm one of the committee chairs that has legislative jurisdiction over some cuts. We found savings in the Federal Employees Benefit Plan in the House Oversight Committee. That's the area where we had legislative jurisdiction. So I'm going to present that to the Rules Committee. We hope to get it through the Rules Committee in the morning, I guess it would be, and then the next day pass the bill on the hopefully on the first vote on the House floor. If it doesn't, then I know we're going to keep voting on it and maybe making some more changes. I don't know, but again, this is regular order. We did this bill the right way. Every committee that had jurisdiction marked it up, passed it out. We had debate in committee. We were going to have debate on the floor. I can't count how many conferences and meetings and briefings we've had on the decision-making process. So as ugly as this looks, this is the one bill in the 8 years I've been in Congress that's been done the right way thus far.
No, I have to say, everyone can nitpick, and I definitely do nitpick, but it's also one where I'm rooting for it because it does feel like the best we've seen in a while. So hopefully I won't have to eat those words, Congressman, but we're looking forward to it passing, hopefully, in the Marlow Show audience. All right, so moving on to the next topic du jour, Joe Biden. You're one of the top Biden investigators as the chairman of the House GOP Oversight Committee. I want to get your sense of what's going on in the media and this discussion of a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline. It's been sort of surreal for me to watch, having researched Joe Biden extensively and written a best-selling book about Joe Biden, just like you did. It's been very odd for me to watch because there was no cover-up as far as I could tell. We all knew he was in severe mental decline. We all knew that he had aneurysms. He had massive surgery on those. We all knew that he would confuse his wife and his sister, and he didn't know where his son died. And now all of a sudden a CNN anchor says that there was a cover-up, and we're like, oh, yeah, there was a cover-up. I don't understand it, Congressman. Do you?
It's just breathtaking to watch because I was attacked so many times by saying Joe Biden was a mental invalid. I was attacked by saying Joe Biden wasn't the one calling the shots. I was attacked when I said Hunter Biden was the de facto chief of staff. That came out today. That's in Jake Tapper's book. Yeah. That Hunter Biden was essentially the chief of staff. If you go back and Google me and Hunter Biden was chief of staff and all of that, the press that I received from MSNBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times, they blistered me. I mean, Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump combined never went through what I went through by telling what we were finding about the Bidens. They were crooks. Mm-hmm. They were lying about the money they were taking in. They weren't paying any taxes on it. Joe Biden had no idea what was going on. Hunter Biden was actually calling the shot. And when the media would say, why are you picking on Hunter Biden? Hunter Biden doesn't work for the government. He was running the government. Jake Tapper put that in his book we found today. I mean, it's just amazing. And for the media to act like, oh, it's a cover-up. We had no idea. They knew. If they didn't know, they need to resign and go get a job at McDonald's or somewhere because they have failed as journalists. If they didn't know that Joe Biden was a mental invalid and that he wasn't the one calling the shots. So what we're doing now on the Oversight Committee, we requested information from the doctor back when Joe Biden was president, and they wouldn't comply with our request. We had questions about the doctor when he said Joe Biden was in perfect health. Now they're saying, well, they never tested his PSA. I'm 52. I've been testing my PSA since I was 30. And you know, so nothing that they're saying is true. The American people know it. The media has finally just thrown their hands up in the air and you know, they've turned on the Biden. So I think we're going to get a lot more information. What we want to know on the Oversight Committee is who was operating the auto pen. Yeah. And who was given the authority to sign pardons and executive orders with this auto pen, because it was not Joe Biden. Even CNN is saying that now.
Right. And just one place where it's important to, where I might have some, I think I might differ with you a little bit, but I think it enhances your point in a way. I come from a family of oncologists, cancer doctors, and the later you get prostate cancer diagnosed, the better your prognosis is. It's one of those diseases. I mentioned this on yesterday's show that our friend Scott Adams from the Dilbert cartoon, like him getting it in his 60s is much worse, much more dangerous than getting it in your 80s. And so the doctors might not test as rigorously for it in the 80s because Joe Biden is likely to die from something else, having it at this age in his life. So I feel like we're kind of getting conned to take our eye off the ball a little bit, which is that he was in cognitive decline for a very long time, and the media was complicit in the cover-up. It wasn't just some inner circle of like 6 Biden aides. It's just Ron Klain and Donnellan and Joe Biden, and it's like Jill. It's like 5 people. No, it was the whole media including Jake Tapper, who allowed for this to go on. I mean, I can't. Congressman, I'm sure with your book, the same when my book came out, I would have loved for CNN to have given the revelations in that book the attention that they're giving this thing. It's just completely corrupt because he's powerless now.
Yeah, the media didn't even cover my book, and it was on the New York Times bestseller list for 3 weeks. They never covered it. They acted like it didn't exist. And it, you know, there's like 3 pages in there where I blistered Jake Tapper because he you know, was so hard on me for saying Joe Biden was a mental invalid. Well, now that's the basis of his whole book. I mean, it's just hypocrisy to no end with the media. But I'm glad the truth's coming out. I always said, and I know you said in your book, I said about the history will be kind to those of us who were brave enough to point out the criminality of the Biden family, as well as the fact that Joe Biden was not calling the shots. He was the one president in our history who truly was a Manchurian president. I mean, he wasn't the one calling the shots.
I want to come back to a point that you mentioned about Hunter, is that from my research, Hunter absolutely was the smartest guy Joe knows. And we made fun of it for that. But for Hunter to have an addiction to the extent that he had and to still pull off the international business deals without getting caught red-handed, I'm not saying he didn't get caught, but he didn't get caught red-handed for them. I mean, I think it does speak to him being highly intelligent. And I absolutely think Hunter thought of himself after Bo died as the steward of the family's name. And I think that Hunter being the de facto chief of staff, that completely rings true to everything we've talked about at Breitbart for the last half decade, if not longer. And again, the media is a part of it. If they didn't see it, that's because they weren't curious enough or they're willfully blind.
Yeah, the media tried to say, well, Hunter's a victim. He's a victim of society and drugs, and poor Hunter. Hunter, this money laundering scheme was very elaborate. Even the banks said that. This was a very sophisticated crime ring by the Biden family that was led by Hunter Biden. It was not led by Jim Biden. It was led by Hunter Biden. Joe Biden knew the whole time what was going on. He was the closer. That was his role. He would go in once they would have everything set up, and he would wink, appreciate you taking care of my family, wink, wink, wink. And that's how the deals were done. But to be able to get away with it, you're exactly right. It was very sophisticated. And I put in the book, Hunter Biden was very intelligent. And I think it goes back to his first job. A lot of people don't realize was he was a bank fraud examiner for a credit card company in Delaware. A lot of credit card companies are domiciled in Delaware. So, of course. So he was trained on how to detect fraud, and that's where he learned how to defraud, was from that bank, the credit card company.
All right. So, Congressman, again, the book's All the President's Money. And I have a note. I pulled up my notes from when I read the book a couple months back. And I did pull up my notes. And I have Joe Biden was the closer as one of my notes. So that's exactly so that point definitely resonated, stuck with me. So let's talk about what can be done, though, here, because it would be nice. We're going to be the ones who are going to have to hold the Jake Tappers accountable and not let him get away with the gaslighting. He's going to make a ton of money off his books, but he's got enough money. He needs to be reputationally damaged for ignoring this stuff when it mattered. That said, I am curious what can be done to the Biden family. Does this nullify any of the things that he did during his presidency? What investigations, what oversight should be done now that we've got sort of this momentum? I won't say revelations. I don't see any new revelations. But now that we got this momentum, what do we do with it?
Well, look, a lot of the problems Trump's having with some of his policy and some of his executive orders is he's losing in court and these judges are basing it on decisions that Joe Biden did to Trump-proof the next administration. Remember, Joe Biden did a lot of executive orders where he signed union contracts, which makes it even harder to terminate federal employees. That's a big part of what Trump said he was going to do in the campaign and what we need to do to drain the swamp. There are too many fat cat federal bureaucrats making big salaries in Washington, D.C. who haven't even been going to work. We want to eliminate the U.S. Department of Education. We want to eliminate agencies like FEMA and transfer that decision-making and that authority to the states. But to do that, you got to get rid of the federal workforce. Remember, Joe Biden in the last 90 days signed a ton of executive orders and collective bargaining agreements that are giving Trump fits in court. Those were signed by the auto pen. Joe Biden did not sign them. My subpoenas, when I subpoena someone, I have to sign them myself because our lawyers are afraid if you don't sign them yourself, if you try to use an auto pen or something, they could kick that out of court. And here you're talking about pardons and massive executive orders that gave federal employees even more rights and made it even more difficult to eliminate a federal agency and eliminate a federal bureaucrat. So if we can prove that Joe Biden wasn't even aware of these executive orders that they used the auto pen to sign, I think that would help President Trump and court.
So walk me through it. What are the steps you want to take once you get through the big, beautiful bill? What are you going to do? Because I imagine you want to get something done here now that we got the chance at oversight.
Every name you just mentioned earlier, we're going to bring in for either a transcribed interview if they'll come in voluntarily, or a deposition because of my subpoena if they refuse to come in voluntarily.
Who are the people you want to talk to most?
Well, the people that we've identified inside the office, they're not big name people that were operating the auto pen. We want to bring the doctor in. We want to know, who was telling you to issue a report that says Joe Biden was the picture of health. I mean, obviously that wasn't factual. Are you that incompetent as a doctor, or were you being threatened by Joe Biden to say that, or by the Democratic National Committee to say, or by George Soros to say that? So we have a ton of questions. People are saying, are you going to have a committee hearing? You know how these committee hearings go. They never go. You only get 5 minutes, and they're always a disaster. We want to bring people in for depositions and interviews and have substantive questions and not be, confined by a 5-minute clock and Jasmine Crockett and Jared Moskowitz screaming and yelling.
I got to say, Congressman, as an American, I totally agree. You and I are on the exact same page that these public hearings do not work. But as a news person, I need them. I need those hearings. I need that content. How am I supposed to do a podcast every day?
They're for entertainment. The people watching this show are entertained by these oversight committee hearings. But to get what we need, the information we want to obtain, we're going to have to do it by depositions and interviews. And look, after that, we can have a hearing. But we want to work with the Trump administration because all I can do is investigate. I can't prosecute. If I could prosecute, there would be Biden family members in prison now. That's a fact. There would be deep state actors in prison now. I can't prosecute. I can only investigate. But Pam Bondi can prosecute. The Department of Justice can prosecute. So we want to work with them and look, I want to see people held accountable for the Biden investigation. I invested a lot of my time in that investigation. I feel like we do have momentum now. I do feel like everyone's like, he was right. The Bidens are crooks. And Hunter probably was calling the shots at the end of the day. So I want to see something happen to these people. And the only way that's going to happen is if Pam Bondi steps up and prosecutes them. We're going to do everything on the Oversight Committee we can to tee it up for them.
Exactly. And Joe Biden himself set the precedent to investigate his predecessor during his post-presidency. So that's it. It's there. It's all there for you. The top investigator in Congress, Congressman James Comer. Thank you for all the time today, and hopefully you'll come back soon.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.